everyone, and welcome to another episode of Thought Leadership Thursday. I'm Dr. Jane Bach, baker and influencer, and today I'm here with Deepak Rhoda of Enzyme Innovations. Deepak, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Jane. My name is Deepak Rhoda. I'm Vice President of Market and Business Development at Enzyme Innovation. I'm a chemical engineer. I did my master's in bioprocess technology with emphasis on enzymes, and then I did some management courses. I've been with the company for last 18 years, a total of 27, 28 years of experience in enzymes and probiotics, right from an R&D on enzymes until getting payment back to the company. That's where I hopped into various different divisions. Walked over into 18 different industries across 50 plus countries, and baking is one of the industries I walked into.
Yeah, so you have quite a history here in this area of enzymes and probiotics and whatnot. So tell us a little bit about Enzyme Innovation as a company.
Enzyme Innovation is a great company. I love it, right? So here is a little about Enzyme Innovation. We are a division of specialty enzymes. We belong to Advanced Enzymes Group globally. We are true producers of enzymes and probiotics. We've been doing this production for last over 63 years. And with our journey in 63 years, we are proud to say that we are now from top 10 global enzymes and probiotics producing company, second largest integrated listed enzyme producer worldwide. We make several different enzymes, like more than 70, 75 different enzymes, and more than 20, 25 probiotics. Making over 400 different solutions, walking into 18 plus industries, products going into more than 45, 47 countries, and still we counting, and a lot of products in pipeline.
So you have a lot of products that span different industries, and then within the food industry, different market segments. But obviously, we're here today to talk more about bakery-specific products. One of the key issues with any baked good is shelf life extension. So tell us a little bit about how you define shelf life extension of baked products.
A very interesting question and a burning issue you brought up, Dr. Jane, right? So with my little experience in baking industry and enzymes, what I see is shelf life extension is defined in several different ways, depending on who is defining it, whether it is a supplier or a consumer or a producer. But I see that there are 3 points here if we have to define shelf life extension. One is the sensory properties, another one is the texture properties, and third is the mold inhibition kind of stuff, right? So when we say sensory, what does that mean? It is like in a mouthfeel. We are talking of aroma, we are talking of taste, we are talking of odor, we are talking of bite, we are talking of moistness. So these are all the attributes of sensory properties. When it comes to texture, then it is a squeeze, it is a softness, it is a crumb, it is a resilience, it is foldability. And this is to the whole baked goods or even a part of it. And the last one is like the mold formation. So how sooner or how later the mold would form onto a baked good. So if I have to define the shelf life, then it is that extra time which is added to a baked goods, where all these properties are preserved as original for the extra length of time. That's how I define the shelf life extension.
So you made a really key point there. Shelf life extension is a complex issue. It's not just texture, it's not just sensory, it's not just the mold-free shelf life of the product. All three of those kind of come together. But you also touched on another key point in that there are different perspectives on shelf life depending on whether, for example, you're a consumer or a producer. So kind of thinking about that, why is shelf life extension of baked products so important?
Well, it is really an important and a burning issue into the industry. Pre-COVID and post-COVID, the industry dynamics, they have completely changed. And that is added to the challenges much more. So if you look from consumer perspective, consumer today, he would want more for less. So less of spending and more from the bread, which means a better bread quality, a variety of bread, but with the same bread quality as in a normal bread, a healthier bread, and a bread with different taste or coming from different grains. But he doesn't want to spend anything more. And after COVID, it is still like a little challenge to spend more. The spending ability is reduced. When it comes from the producer point of view, the producer want to save the profit he's losing or want to make more profit, right? The prices of grains, they are increasing, or any ingredient as on today, if you look at it, that's increasing. So the producer would want to save his profit. This is a key point from here. Another point where the producer would want to save or address is the return of the baked goods from the shelf. So the baked goods goes into the market or on the shelf with a defined shelf life, and if it is not sold completely, the same baked goods, they come back. We call it as the spoiled baked goods, and it has no use. No one could make any money out of it. Rather than making money, someone like the producer has to spend some money to dispose it off, right? So this is from the consumer, from the producer point of view. There is a third aspect to it, and it is the environment, or it is the safety. So if we have spoiled goods, disposing of spoiled goods is a big challenge, which will add on to the carbon footprint in a negative way. And today, carbon footprint is a big issue. This is one. If we consider the baked good, it is spoiled because of the microbial growth there. We don't know what kind of microbial growth it would be. And so this may be hazardous to the nature, or it may be hazardous to the human being. And so one has to be really careful. So if you put all these three things together, there's a big concern, because consumer is concerned, the producer is concerned, and also we as a human being, we have a responsibility towards preserving nature or preserving the life. COVID again is a big example. Something goes wrong, and you know what can happen, right? So that's the reason the shelf life extension is a big concern. That's my viewpoint there.
And that's a really good point, thinking about it from a consumer and producer standpoint, but also an environmental standpoint, because that spoiled product has to go somewhere. Yeah. So with all of those perspectives in mind, especially the environmental concerns, what are the current means and ways that we have available to extend shelf life of baked products?
So a lot of research has been done, and many things they are in practice and in use to extend the shelf life or preserve the baked goods for a longer time. People are using various different chemicals. There is a change in the flour quality. There is a change in baking recipe. The producers are making an effort to make it as clean as possible, but chemicals always gives a limited option, and if the chemicals are giving something, they are taking away something. So example, like what kind of chemicals they are in use? Acids, so like vinegar kind of stuff, they are in use, having a high acidity or higher acidity. Would say that the mold formation would get delayed. People are using gums, CMCs, or emulsifiers. When you use gums, the bread become more chewy. You're losing some property there. So in acid, you have more of an acidic flavor. In gums, it becomes like a little bit more sticky. If you are using CMC kind of stuff, it may get more drier because it has an ability to bind more water. So these chemicals are being used, but then there are kind of a disadvantage where some property in the bread is getting compromised, though it is adding to extend the shelf life. So other than chemicals, enzymes are a big and promising alternative. And enzymes have been proven like in a great deal of results, delivering results and extending the shelf life. So so enzymes to me is like a little bit more safer because it's safe to use and it doesn't alter any flavor or any aroma or any property of the bread to a great extent the way chemicals are done.
So as you mentioned, there are different approaches to shelf life extension. You have various more chemical type additives, you have enzymes, and some of these, especially on the more chemical side, impact bread quality. So Enzyme Innovations has a solution called Seabake Fresh Ultra. Can you tell us a little bit about what Seabake Fresh Ultra is?
Yeah, so just now we spoke about enzyme, and a simple answer to this one is Seabake Fresh Ultra is an enzyme, right? So it's a high-performing maltogenic amylase. Breads are generally made from any kind of grain, which do have starch inside. Starch is nothing but a glucose polymer. It has a long chain of amylose and amylopectin. So amylose is a linear chain and amylopectin is a branch chain. Now, when we heat the starch liquefies, but then when we cool down the starch, it retrogrades. So the retrogradation generally happen, or it is coming from an amylopectin portion of the starch. And so when it retrogrades, it becomes hard. So the same thing is getting translated into the flour or while you're making bread. So when the amylopectin retrogrades, the bread becomes hard. And so it causes like hardness or a stalling onset, right? So this particular maltogenic amylase, it acts upon the amylopectin portion of the starch, cut it down to the dextrin or glucose, and delays or avoids the retrogradation of starch portion.
Okay. So with that in mind, why or maybe when should a baker use Seabake Fresh Ultra?
Okay, when baker wants to make more money, he should use Seabake Fresh Ultra, right? Because certainly, no brainer. It would help to extend the shelf life of the bread. We did a lot of studies with using Seabake Fresh Ultra in our lab. We made breads with so there are different ways to make breads: a short dough or a straight dough, or you do with the bread with some other grains added into it, and see the shelf life. So here I'm talking of a normal bread, what we need in with and without Seabake Fresh Ultra. So where without Seabake Fresh Ultra, the bread remained fresh for not over 7 or 8 days. With Seabake Fresh Ultra, we've seen the best performance with an extended shelf life of 35 days also. So imagine if the bread is even staying, not 35 days, but then even staying for 14 days on the shelf with the same freshness, the kind of returns it would reduce and bring profits or add profits to the producer. So this is a simple way, a simple and very important point why a baker should use Seabake Fresh Ultra. Moreover, using Seabake Fresh Ultra, a baker will not have to compromise onto the bread parameters or bread quality or bread taste, flavor, or aroma, because enzyme doesn't give any of this the changes into the bread quality. So this is second point. Third point, it's easy to handle, where the other ingredients, they will have to put in like in a few thousand ppm. The Seabake Fresh Ultra is just like in a few hundred ppm or few tens of ppm. One has to use. So very easy to use and convenient. So these are the three simple points why a baker should use Seabake Fresh Ultra.
And those are all really good points. And you kind of started to get into it there towards the end of your answer, but just to kind of clarify for the audience, how would you use Seabake Fresh Ultra? Thinking about things like you started to talk about dosage, but also application parameters.
Well, so a good point. Dosage is really important when it comes to Seabake Fresh Ultra, right? We recommend a dose range of right from 10 ppm until 100 ppm, depending on what kind of baked good it has been produced. Typically for a normal bread, it is like a 50 ppm, 50 parts per million. So I would say 50 gram and 1,000 kilos of flour kind of stuff. That's kind of dosage, recommended dosage for Seabake Fresh Ultra. Now, since this dosage is really smaller, I would recommend a baker to put this enzyme into the water which they use for, or disperse into the water which they use for making dough, and mix it. So by this way, it will ensure the even miscibility of the enzyme with the dough, and also avoid any losses. Generally, people try to put this in a dry mix. But when you're doing it in a dry mix and the mixer starts, there is kind of a dusting. Now, since like the dosage is in ppm level, even if you're losing this enzyme by way of dust in ppm level, there'll be a difference into the results. So this is the best way to use it. But if you see, this is very convenient to use. You can just take out something from your pocket and you say, hey, 50 grams, I just put it inside. That's it. Nothing you have to do. The storage space is lesser. And once the dough is made, then it can go for baking. It's very flexible or work under broad pH range, right from 4.5 or 5 until 7.5. So it can take care of various different bed times. It doesn't have any adverse effect, right? Unlike there are the other classes of amylases where it will liquefy the whole starch, this doesn't liquefy any starch. So one doesn't have to worry about the longer flour time, whatever mixing time plus the fermentation time you have, and that is good enough for the enzyme to perform. So pretty easy, safe, simple to use.
That's the truth. I've seen some of those challenges before that you mentioned. Now, looking at, using Seabake Fresh Ultra, let's talk a little bit about the various benefits that its usage offers.
Okay, so I think from our earlier points where we discussed about this product, so we know that this brings in the shelf life extension, right? In addition to what a normal maltogenic amylase or other amylase would offer, like example, crumb retention or the squeeze retention or the taste or aroma or softness. The Seabake Fresh Ultra also offers the benefits of a better resilience and better foldability, right? So a shelf life extension for a longer time. You can do up to 200% or 300% kind of in time. This is the key benefit. And resilience and foldability, these are two added features compared to the normal maltogenic amylases which are there. There's one more benefit which I'm forgetting, right? So this particular maltogenic amylase, this even performs in a moderate sugar or moderate fat baked goods, which generally a normal or other maltogenic amylases, they don't perform. Like the enzyme gets inhibited because of the higher concentrations of the fats of the sugar. But this enzyme is a little bit resistant to this one. So which means, yes, something more which has been added. So three more features: the resilience, the foldability, and then the resistance to the moderate level of fats and sugar.
Well, this has been fantastic information for our audience. And I just want to thank you one more time, Deepak, for joining us today for our Thought Leadership Thursday. And of course, if anyone wants more information about Seabake Fresh Ultra or Enzyme Innovation, the sponsor showcase does have a link in the description for more information. And with that, thank you, Deepak, and thank you everyone for joining in.
Thank you for having me, Jane. It was wonderful chatting with you on Seabake Fresh Ultra.